We have taken attendance and we do have a quorum, so we can move on. First off, I wanted to have, we have a new commissioner, Ruth Burke from, actually she works at ISU, but Ruth?
I'm an associate professor of art at ISU and a farmer in unincorporated McLean County, Old Town Township, and I'm really excited to be here and be in service to our community.
Okay. Can we go around the table real quickly just to make sure Ruth knows who we are?
Yeah. McLean, Executive Director for MCRPC.
Amy Roser, I'm the Unit 5 representative from the Fire Board, but I also work at ISU.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mark Bittner, I'm also from the, and represent the county.
Hi, Ruth. I'm Katie Ruder, represent City of Bloomington. I've been a commissioner since August of 2023.
Mark Wiley, represent District 87.
Fred Reeder, I represent the county.
I'm Carl Eichmann, I'm chair, and I represent the town of Norway. Okay. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to move on to the consent agenda. We have a couple of things to consider on the consent agenda today. And before we go into that, I wanted to preference and give people some background in terms of the minutes. If you remember at our last meeting, I asked that we table the minutes from the September 24th, November 5th, and December 3rd meeting, and that was pending a review by the Attorney General's office on a session that we had related to our August 6th meeting. And there was a question raised as to whether or not we properly, as chair, I properly got us into a executive session for the commission meeting, and questions were raised as to whether or not that was actually done correctly. The AG decided that it was not correct, and that in essence there were a couple of things that we could have done, I could have done differently as chair and such, and so those are reflected in the us bringing the August 6th, both the August 6th minutes and then also for the closed session for August 6th as well. But we'll get to those in our regular agenda. But in the consent agenda, we have the minutes from the 24th of September, November 5th, and December 3rd that we would be regularly, that were not under any consideration or any problems whatsoever. So those are essentially clean and ready to go. So that's part of the consent agenda. We also have our financial reports. And also the staff reports. Is there anything that any commissioner would like to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Bart. Second. Thank you, Mark. All those in favor of this indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And now into our regular agenda. Ray, I understand you have something you'd like to mention?
Yeah, just really quick to point out that one of our staff members recently passed what we call AICP exam for professional planners. AICP stands for American Institute of Certified Planners, and with Thomas sitting down that way, who's now being certified as AICP, so can be at AICP. So congrats. We said it many times, and but yeah, it's a big accomplishment, and that would he will be for years the third person carries that title. Jen and myself, now Thomas. So it's certain accreditation. You have to meet certain experience and academic requirements in order to pass the exam. In order to qualify for that title. So just, yeah, I want to recognize that and that the commission as well.
Thank you. Congratulations, Thomas. We're now on to the regular agenda. First is the amended minutes of August 6th is up for a vote and approval. The AG, what we did was we went to our legal representative through the county to revise those minutes so that it met the spirit of what the AG wanted us to do. And so the minutes you have gone through her. The other issue that I'd like to bring up at the same time is, as part of, and for those of you who have been through OMA, we periodically have to go through our closed sessions and review whether or not those minutes needed to be remain confidential and such. In a discussion with others here, or with Ray and Katie, I think we've determined that those minutes do not still need to remain confidential. That essentially what was needed to be covered was covered and can now be released. So we have two items to operate today, or to vote on. One is the amended minutes of August 6th, to close the loop on that. And then finally, the August 5th closed session to release those. Unfortunately, if we want to talk about the contents of the closed session, we would actually have to go back into closed session to get that done. I'm not sure, one of the reasons why we shared that with everyone beforehand was to make sure that you had a chance to review those. And so I would open it up to a motion to approve the amended minutes of August 6th and also release the closed session minutes of August 6th. So thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, and that item is taken care of. Okay, we're now on to the election of officers. Typically, if I were standing for chair, I would have to recuse myself and have someone else take over as chair. I'm not standing for chair again, and so I can go ahead and proceed with the election of all of the officers. First up is our chairperson. Typically what we do is we leave this open for nomination, and you can self-nominate if you'd like. So that's always open. But first up is the chairperson. And is there any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Katie for chair.
Are there others? If not, I'll declare the nominations closed and proceed to vote. And unfortunately, this is one of those uncomfortable things that we do, you know, it's not by secret ballot and such, so. Yeah. All those in favor of having Katie as the new chair of regional planning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Katie, the job's yours. Congratulations. Okay, next position up is vice chair, and I would open the floor for nominations.
I have a nomination, not discussed previously with this individual, but I'd like to nominate Amy Roser. The reason stated is this for like sort of where we are in this busy year is tightening things up procedurally as things we've discussed recently. Amy brings a wealth of experience from the school district or the school board, excuse me, and I think is the right person for this. Of course, you don't need to accept because we can talk about it.
What are the can we go over the responsibilities of the vice chair?
Jim's not here, so.
Yeah, essentially, the vice chair fills in the absence of the chair, but there are really minimal activities that you're required to do per se. The only big worry is that Katie stays healthy and we don't have any blips and such. So that's primarily what it is. You do serve on the executive committee, and that meets once a year.
Okay.
So it's not an onerous task in any way, shape, or form.
I think I can do
And such. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I've served in both roles, and vice chair is I wouldn't say a walk in the park, but it's not onerous in any way, shape, or form.
I feel I can meet those expectations.
Glad to hear. Okay, so are there any other nominations? I will then call for nominations or determine the nominations have been closed and proceed to vote. All those in favor of Amy for vice chairperson for the commission, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Congratulations, Amy. You're now our vice chair. And then finally, we have, as part of it, we have, for the executive committee, we have the chairman of the chairperson, the vice chairperson, and then we have one other member of the commission as that designated person. And so that would, we would need a designated person to serve on the executive committee from the commission. Are there any nominations for that?
I nominate Bart.
Okay, thank you. Any other nominations? I'll declare the nominations closed and proceed to vote. All those in favor of Bart being our designated member to the executive committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Bart, congratulations, you're done.
Mark noticed that it said on
Now, Katie, I need to hand the gavel over to you and we change positions because you're now the chair. Oh, okay. For you.
Got it. It's all yours.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to motion to close the election of officers for 2026?
So
Second. Aye. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So next on our formal agenda is the items for information or discussion. So we will start with Ray with our housing coordinator position update.
Thank you. Pardon my stuffy nose, so you can hear me. I'm here. Yes. Yeah. Good news. Just shortly before the new year, we received a fully executed grant agreement from DCEO, and that basically confirmed and also put in writing the agreement that will allow us to hire a housing coordinator, and then it's a 2-year agreement, and with possibility of extension if needed. We'll see it when it gets closer. And so we're working on getting an RFP together, and they ought to advertise for the position and then get it going. So that's the good news. It's a major milestone.
Any questions for Ray?
What was roughly the job description of that?
Yeah, in 2024, there was a regional recovery housing plan that was adopted actually by the Planning Commission. And in there's like action items and strategies and recommendations. And so that person in working with a plan implementation, housing plan implementation committee will help to coordinate to carry out those action items, like under the guidance of the implementation committee, which yet to be formed, but there will be a smaller committee with representatives from the county, city, town to begin with, and also a couple of people from the industry, so to speak, because when we talk about housing, it's not just for profit, but also non-profit, and there's so many different players. And also, they'll be working with others in the communities who are into the housing scene.
Thank you.
What our job
minimum requirements, do you know yet what minimum requirements they look like?
Yeah, since this is a kind of somewhat high profile position, we preferably, somebody a master's degree, but then at least a minimum a bachelor degree with few years of experience, especially working in the housing sector, different partners. I think the collaboration and the cooperation is really important. As you all know, you've been hearing updates every month. When the housing sector is so diversified, right? I mean, there's so many needs, from house to unhoused, from affordable housing to for-profit housing, developers, even some are non-profit developers. There's some for-profit developers. The public housing authority, is another player. So, well, state regulations, federal regulations, and the local scene. So, that person really should have really good experience and also work well with different parties and entities. Yeah.
Any other questions? Housing coordinator position? And Ray, as discussions have progressed and the grant was finalized, has the reporting structure changed at all, or is the thought that this person will still report to you when hired?
Yeah, that person will report to me, and also will be working along with me with this implementation housing plan implementation committee. So in terms of day-to-day, that person will be reporting to me. There's some state grant reporting requirements that we will be working with that person, and so it's not me trying to control, but I think from the administrators from the city, town, county, they thought it's better, for that coordinator to be directly reporting to some accountability.
And you have adequate office space at regional planning to accommodate that person?
We actually don't. We'll find space. We have to make space to a certain degrees because we see that person also doing a lot of meetings outside of the office, and so it'll be somewhat mobile. So we have to work it out for that. Yeah. Okay.
And this will be a regional search, national search?
We hope to go, regional and national. I mean, of course, local definitely. If somebody end up hired locally, that's great too,
because then they don't need to find housing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they know what's going on, the needs, but then also is somewhat high profile position. And so it's somebody, you never know, maybe used to live here, move away into the housing sector, work for a number of years and decide to move back, things like that. So we'll see, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and if you know anybody might be qualified, interested, let us know. So when we post it, we'll definitely make that person.
Thanks so much, Ray. We'll definitely expect continuous updates as that progresses. So next we have Luke with our regional housing initiatives update.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations. Here are the updates for the regional housing initiative. First, we chaired the joint affordable and supportive housing and housing staff meeting last month. We had Home Sweet Home CEO Matt Burgess as our invited speaker to talk about the bridge. Speaking of the bridge, yesterday we attended the ribbon cutting for the bridge. So just a brief overview, the bridge is a non-congregate shelter project by Home Sweet Home Ministries. They have 40 units composed of 40 single bed units and 82 bed units. So this will serve 56 individuals. And so Matt said that they are 1 to 2 weeks away from having the unsheltered people move in. And they were targeting the week of January 12th, but it really depends on how fast they clear things with the city. Moving on, we will be having the housing staff meeting on January 22nd, that's a Thursday. And for other updates, we've submitted the City of Bloomington's CDBG Program Year 2026 application end of last month. And this month, we will be submitting the third quarter report to the town CDBG program. Also this month, we will start working on the AMI, or rather updating the AMI white paper and updating the housing dashboard once the new 5-year ACS data comes out sometime later this month, January 29th. Also, we attended the Housing Coalition meeting, which they talked about the spring and fall care fair dates, which is May 21st and October 8th. And then the preparations for the 2026 point in time or the PIN count, which will happen on January 29th. We also attended the Unhoused Task Force meeting where they talked about street outreach and more of the bridge. That's all that I have. Do you have questions?
I was just curious with the bridge facility, did they build a restroom or bathroom facility that's central, or do they go over to the Home Sweet Home facility? I didn't notice.
Yeah, so there's a central bathroom for them. They don't have individual bathrooms.
Right,
So,
right.
because that's the common misconception. Do they have individual bathrooms? So it's not really a tiny house, it's a cabin, but
Yeah.
they have like a communal.
So they built I didn't notice,
On-site, yes.
okay, yeah, I didn't see that.
It's right behind the main building.
Okay, I guess I haven't been by closely enough to see.
It's basically, it's a building, and then they have like individual rooms for the
Yeah.
shower and the toilets, but it's all connected.
Do you have any more questions?
One unique thing about the bridge is just in their common building, they named the main room after a person who'd been on the Home Sweet Home mission, but who also had experienced homelessness in his life, Russ March. And so I thought that was kind of neat that they did that. Very cool.
All right, thanks, Lou. All right, so next we have Jennifer with the Human Services Transportation Plan update. Jennifer, you have the floor.
In the same place, thank you. Congratulations. I'm finally having to bend the reading glasses. So as some of you will recall from our last meeting, it happened, at the beginning of December. On December 15th, the Region 6 Joint Committees, that is the technical and policy committees in charge of this process, met in Pontiac. In-person participation was somewhat limited because it was really, really cold that day. And a lot of people were not up for charging out, but we had good participation, mostly from Livingston County and a couple of people from Kankakee County, and 8 people participated virtually, including IDOT staff. So they were there, they just weren't in the room. Since no month goes by without some sort of surprise, I will announce that as of last Friday, January 2nd, the Chris Rural Mass Transit District announced its dissolution. It was the provider for Ford and Iroquois counties in Region 6, 2 of our more rural counties. In a special Chris board meeting on Friday, it was decided that the withdrawal of IDOT funding meant the service could no longer operate. This also applies to Vermilion County, which is in a different region. We've reached out regarding possible replacement providers. We've not yet had a conversation with IDOT about this. We hope to do that soon, simply so we can respond to questions as they come in and kind of get a sense of what the timeline might be for that. In the meantime, Chris's website is now down to 1 page, which has what they call referrals to other possible providers. The last time I looked, there was 1 agency listed, and it was somebody I'd never heard of. So that's not encouraging, but we're hoping that things will improve quickly.
Jennifer, why did they decide to cease operation?
Because they had no money. IDOT decided to withdraw certain categories of funding.
Okay.
And frankly, I don't know the details on that, and they were not discussed. The fact of that withdrawal of funding was discussed on the agenda for the board meeting held last Friday morning. And by midday, they had put up an announcement they were closing down. Again, they started out in Vermilion County and it affects Vermilion as well. The agency has essentially ceased to exist.
So in essence, residents in those areas do not have any transportation.
As things stand right now, and there are, again, these are areas that can be difficult to serve. Iroquois County is quite large, scattered population, and I'm not sure, Chris had been operating in Vermilion County, which is slightly smaller than Iroquois, but they may not have understood what a challenge this was going to be. Ford County, of course, is small and kind of hard to reach. Some of the same problems obtained with distance. Also, residents in Fort County are more likely to want to travel, especially for medical trips, to Champaign rather than Bloomington Normal because it's closer.
Sure.
And so that is another consideration that may come up as IDOT, advances a search for a replacement provider. And we have heard nothing about where they are on that. And again, I hope that they will get to us or we can persuade them to talk to us soon so that we have a sense of what that looks like and if they have any contenders essentially to take over in those two counties. And that may include, providers, existing providers in the other three counties. We don't know yet. So we'll wait and see. And hope that, things move along quickly and they can find someone who can manage the task of providing service, but also manage IDOT's process to their satisfaction. So we'll see. Moving on to what we're doing, because we're more reactive in this than we would like to be. That's the way it goes. We are currently developing a public survey for all of Region 6 to compile information, especially with regard to service needs and gaps that people identify that they know, and obviously in Iroquois and Fort counties, that's going to be a giant gap of no service at all. But we're trying to gauge what is coming and what is available. And all of that data we receive will assist in the update of the Region 6 plan for review and discussion, and then presentation for approval over the next almost 6 months. And that would be, the approval would be from the Regional Policy Committee, which consists of members of the county boards of the relevant counties. By the end of the fiscal year for IDOT, which is the end of June. In the meantime, a number of other activities are going forward and we are updating, and Thomas was mentioned, and again, this is Thomas's baby, updating our HSDP information hub on our website. We do now have an announcement regarding the CRIS withdrawal from service in the two counties, but there's lots of other information there too. And Thomas has been great about keeping it up to date so that people can find the resources they need. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Next, we have the Veterans Parkway Corridor Plan update.
Okay, thank you. The next project steering committee is this Friday in 2 days. But most recently, they also have completed what they call the preliminary alternatives analysis report, and also an executive summary. There's a lot of kind of work on the different alternatives they have considered, and we have posted those documents on our website. So if you go to our website, which you're familiar with, then click the button for that project and scroll down to toward the bottom, and you see those two documents on there. Basically, they are at a point where there are different alternatives being considered, and so the next step is for them to kind of narrow it down. Given that, if you recall, they had public open houses and the business community in the fall, and so those were also taken into consideration, input from the project steering committee and the technical knowledge and research. So they compiling all those in that report and the executive summary. And so the project is on target for completion September of 2026. But this also is a major phase, almost the final phase. There's 4 phases. We are kind of in the beginning of the 4th phase where they start narrowing down to the preferred alternatives and go further. So there will be more public engagement opportunities down the road as well. So, any questions?
And finally, we have the Regional Comprehensive Plan update. Ray and Anthony.
Good afternoon, everyone. Short update this time. Not a whole lot going on. The strategic land use plan, as you know, the last meeting was received and filed, and so at this point, it is now in the hands of city, town, and county to go through their official adoption process. We're still waiting to see what they're going to do, but when we know, we will update you. And then as for the comprehensive plan, since last month, we've been working on a lot of the pre-planning kind of background work, putting together what we think is a good timeline, some preliminary information, scope of work, what to expect, when people can have public input, when we're gonna build those into the timeline and such. At this point, we're still kind of buttoning that all up, so we're hoping that next meeting in February, we'll be able to kind of do a big kickoff announcement and let everybody know what the plan is. That's all I got.
Is there any timeline on how long they have to act, each of the city, town, and county? I mean, is there, or is it just kind of sit there and they can always just reach to it if and when they want to utilize it?
So they have to adopt it in order to be able to utilize it as official policy documentation. As to when they are required to adopt it, it's up to them. Obviously, they want to adopt it, they want to use the new information. But figuring out how that process will work for each municipality is going to be different. City, town has to bring it, I think, to their planning commissions and then potentially another advisory board and then their council for final approval. And how long that takes when they decide to initiate that is kind of up to them, and we don't really know.
Gotcha, but there's no shelf life on it or any deadline that they have to meet. It's just kind of follow their own process.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the fall of 2026 date, is that to have a timeline and a plan for the comprehensive plan, or what is that date?
I can answer that because I was the one put that dates down. That was prior, all along for the comprehensive plan, we had a timeline, right? And actually we started some work behind the scene, staff started some work behind the scene. So before the work that happened, with the strategic land use plan, we were planning to have that done around the summer of this year or fall of this year. And so that's why we kind of keeping the September date for that. And as what Anthony just said, we will kind of revisit the timeline, because we don't want to rush through and the things that we have learned, through the strategic land use process. And so we will be revisiting that, and hopefully by actually next meeting, then we have something more definite instead of September. That's kind of from when all this was being worked on. So we will have conversations with the administrations and just see what will fit and work out. Typically, a comp plan process from beginning to finish is about 18 to 24 months. That's pretty not untypical. I mean, you talk with other cities, different sizes and counties. That is not unusual. So since we have done some work, we, with the input through the strategic land use plan process and things we have learned, we still want to have a solid product. So we will hopefully, by next meeting, the planning commission, we have someone, something more definite.
So so I guess I'll hold my other questions for next meeting. We'll talk about that more in depth. But I know that in 2009, and that was an update from 2000, right? So it was building on work that had been done 9 years previous. That took, I think, two years, right? Jennifer, you were here. Right? I think it was 2 years.
Probably close to that. It's a little, we were really more starting afresh at that point because it had been 9 years. And I wasn't here yet, so I wasn't involved in that 2000 document. It felt like a good start. And this time around, of course, we have a larger gap in time. And although we had done some preliminary work last year, mostly on existing conditions issues and some other organizational stuff, there's still a lot to be done and time to be used for really a brand new document.
Yeah, if I may add too, 2009 seems like a long time ago. For those of us who went to planning schools, the planning professors said there's really no set time that it has to be updated so often. Really depending on the localities and the changes, and some places more high growth area, then they see more changes. Some not as much. Then it doesn't mean that it has to be 10 years or 5 years, 10 years, it depending on the area. And you recall 2009, that was when the global economic recession, and if you all know this area, a lot of things stay flat, a whole lot of things happening, development-wise and everything. And so it took a while to recover. We're not there yet, but now we start seeing more housing, subdivisions, start being built, and that's great. But I remember used to see before 2009, 2008, every time when I drove by Bloomington on 55, there's always new subdivisions, always see some construction. So while things kind of stay flat in a way for a number of years until Vivian got into, do more work and took up the closed Mitsubishi plant and few other employers, and then also changes with the State Farm. Some people move away, so that took some of the population away. But then also we recognize that 2020 census information now is available with more accurate information on the population census. We have sustainability and resiliency more, is an issue that need to be considered. There are other things that employers, as the chocolate factory, the Rivian expansion, all those. So those have to be taken into consideration. So a lot of factors come into play, and that's one of the reasons why in working with our partners that we work on as an offshoot of the comprehensive plan, that's strategic land use plan, really because of development pressure in the last few years, housing needs and other development, and so it certainly need to be look at just taking the land use and trying to address the development pressure for the time being. Now that's done, so we're back to the comp plan and trying to. There's still context now.
Ray, can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
The 2009 plan, which I hope some of you had a chance to look at, was one of those demonstrations of the adage that timing is everything.
Yes.
Because of course, we concluded it right before the 2010 census, which meant we were using relatively old data, even though both Bloomington and Normal did mid-cycle account updates. But the other thing is that there's a forward to the plan from the chair of the steering committee saying a whole bunch of stuff has happened in the last 6 months that we couldn't foresee. And so she didn't exactly say take this with a grain of salt, but it was kind of implied that because of that timing, there were things that we hadn't looked at and hadn't considered. So this time around, I think we have more luxury of the time, and we are sort of mid-cycle on the census, but we have data to work with, and it's a whole different process. And thus, it's not just an update, it's a new set of scenarios.
Yeah. Like wind farms and solar farms is another, phenomenon area that wasn't here 20 years ago. Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions for Ray and Anthony? So for other matters of discussion, I have one before I open it to the floor. So last meeting, we of course recognized Jim and John and Ron for their service. And I think we would be neglectful if we didn't recognize Carl for having served for chairperson. So obviously we get to keep him on the commission. We just appreciate your leadership and professionalism and patience and just always being willing to listen to different perspectives. So thank you so much. Are there any other matters to come before the commission?
I would just like to share that in the spirit of, land use and housing developments, Unit 5 is doing an enrollment study, looking at where our enrollment is and what our future needs are. So in the spring, you may start to see, actually in February, we should have some recommendations out for discussion, and then by March, some final proposals to the board to decide that could include potentially some closure of a school or so, boundary movement, new schools if, depending upon what the enrollment and the patterns include for the future. So that's a big deal for a lot of people, and so you'll hear a lot of chatter about that. Some of the families have already referenced the strategic land use plan in their comments. So that kudos to those who put work. I have some questions for you then about that. So.
Well, and hopefully the information from Unit 5 can be fed into the plan as well.
Yeah, we are using a private outside consultant, Proper GI, that does this work across the country. And before, and I'm on the internal committee for the planning, and it's pretty impressive in the work that they're doing. So we just got their projections of where they think housing and stuff will question we come back with on that. Some areas. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Amy, well, thank you for the update on the Unit 5 enrollment study. Any questions or feedback on that? Any other matters to come before the commission before we adjourn?
I would move to be adjourned.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. All right. January 7th, meeting adjourned at 4:41 p.m.